So now that we have ngrok installed, the next thing we want to do is go ahead and register an application. Now we know what the endpoints are going to be, and now we have the URL that we're going to be using. So if you don't have an account on the developer portal, you can go ahead and register for one. I already have one, and I'm already logged in, so I'm going to click on my account. I'm going to click on my apps, sorry. And now you can see my list of apps, and so I'm going to go ahead and register one. So I'm going to click Add. We'll give it a name, and we'll say UEF Tutorial. You can call it whatever you want. For the sake of brevity, I will paste that into the description. And my domain for this tutorial is going to be HTTPS. It's going to be essentially my ngrok endpoint. And so we're just going to say ngrok.io. So now we're setting up as LTI 1.3. So let's go ahead and set this here. Our login initiation URL is going to be our ngrok endpoint. So let's go back here and copy our URL, and we're going to say ngrok/login with a trailing slash. We're using Flask, so the trailing slash is important. Flask expects that to be there, and so does the way that we've created our routes. So make sure that you have that trailing slash. The next thing that we need is our tool redirect URL, and this is going to be that same HTTPS endpoint /launch with a trailing slash. Again, make sure you have the trailing slash. Now, in a real life situation, we're going to use the JWKS URL, and this allows us to have the private key only ever seen within our application. If we leave this blank, then the developer portal will go ahead and create one for us, and that's what we're going to do for this. In real life, you're going to want to handle this on your tools side. Now, when it's created, it will display the private key one time in the UI, and then you'll never see it again. So make sure that you copy and paste this, and keep it so that you don't lose it. So in our case, we're going to go ahead and register the application and generate the API key. And what you'll see is we now have our application key and secret. We are going to need these as part of the Ultra Extension Framework work, and so make sure that you're keeping all of this information. The application ID is both the REST application ID and the LTI client ID, so we need to make sure we keep this. And most of these are going to be the same no matter what the application is that you've registered. You'll notice you have the client key from an LTI perspective, and then here you have the client key for the public key set URL for the JWKS that your application will need to get the public key from Learn. The rest of this is always the same. The OIDC auth endpoint is always the same. The auth token endpoint, the issuer, always the same. And then here we have our tool private key. Now I'm comfortable showing this to you because as soon as I'm done recording this, I am going to delete this registration. Also, it's only good for this particular instance. So now what's happening in the background is the tool private key is displayed for us so that we can copy it into our application. The corresponding public key is then stored on the developer portal, so no matter what instance of Blackboard you install this on, there will be a centralized location where where the developer portal can validate your public key against your messages, and that way we always know that it is safe. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and end this recording, and we'll pick up on the next one by cloning our application and setting up our configuration.